When a police officer finishes writing your ticket, hands you the clipboard, and says, "Just initial here," almost every driver reaches for the pen without a second thought. It is just initials, not a signature, not a full name, just 2 or 3 letters in a small box at the bottom of a form. Here is what almost nobody knows. Your initials carry the exact same legal weight as your full signature. There is no legal distinction between the two. Initialing a document is signing a document. The size of what you write does not change what you are agreeing to. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Officers are trained to ask for initials specifically because it feels smaller. It feels less serious. It feels like a formality rather than a legal act. That feeling is the entire point. When something feels like nothing, you do not read it before you agree to it. And when you do not read it before you agree to it, you have no idea what you just put your name on. Today I'm going to show you exactly what is happening legally when that clipboard comes through your window, why the word initial is used instead of sign, what you are actually agreeing to in the most common scenarios where this happens, and the exact words you say before any pen moves. Hit subscribe right now because this channel exists to give you the knowledge that protects you in the moments that matter most. Share this with one person before this video ends. Someone who gets pulled over, someone who would reach for that pen without a second thought, because they are exactly who needs this most. Here is the reality that most drivers are never taught. A traffic stop involves more paperwork than most people realize. There is the citation itself. There may be a written warning. In some states, there are acknowledgement forms, field contact cards, consent documentation, or equipment violation notices. Each of these is a separate legal document. Each one can carry initials lines, signature lines, or both. When an officer says, "Just initial here," they are asking you to execute a legal document. In contract law, in criminal procedure, in every court in this country, initials on a document constitute a valid acknowledgement or agreement. The courts do not treat a set of initials as somehow less binding than a full signature. They treat them as identical. So the question you need to ask before your pen touches that paper is not whether it is just initials. The question is, what does this document actually say, and what am I agreeing to by putting my name on it in any form? Now here is the trap inside the trap. Most of the time when an officer says, "Just initial here," they say it in a tone that implies this is the last step before you drive away. The stop is winding down. You have been there long enough. The officer's energy shifts toward conclusion. And in that moment, initialing feels like the thing that ends this and gets you back on the road. That pressure, the implicit message that initialing is the exit, is exactly what prevents you from doing the one thing you should always do before initialing anything: reading it. You have the right to read every document you are asked to initial or sign during a traffic stop. There is no law that requires you to execute paperwork at the officer's preferred pace. You can take a reasonable amount of time to review what is in front of you, and you can ask what the document is and what initialing it means before you pick up the pen at all. Here is what the bad way looks like. Officer wraps up the stop, hands over the clipboard, and says, "Just initial at the bottom there." Driver glances at the form, sees a box with a line, initials it without reading, hands it back, and drives away. They have no idea what they agreed to. In some cases, they acknowledge that they were informed of their right to a hearing and chose not to request one, waiving a challenge they did not know they had. In other cases, they signed an acknowledgement that included language about the nature of the violation that can be used in court. Here is what the good way looks like. Officer hands over the clipboard. Driver looks at the form, does not immediately pick up the pen, and says, "Officer, before I initial anything, can you tell me exactly what I am acknowledging by signing this?" The officer explains. The driver reads the relevant section. The driver either initials with full understanding of what they are agreeing to, or, if it is something beyond a standard ticket acknowledgement, says, "I would like to have an attorney review this before I initial. I am not refusing to comply with the stop. I am asking for the opportunity to understand what I am signing." That second sentence matters. You are not refusing. You are not being obstructive. You are exercising a completely legal right to understand a legal document before you execute it. Drop a comment right now. Have you ever initialed or signed something during a traffic stop without reading it first? Tell me yes or no. I want to know how many people this happens to every single day without anyone ever questioning it. If you are still here, hit the like button because what comes next is where this gets specific. And specific is where you actually stay protected. Let me walk you through the 3 most common documents where officers ask for initials during a traffic stop and exactly what each one actually means. The first is the traffic citation acknowledgement. This is the most common one. In most states, when you initial or sign a traffic citation, you are not admitting guilt. You are acknowledging receipt of the citation, and in many states agreeing to appear in court or pay the fine by a certain date. That is all. You can initial this without it being a confession. But, and this matters, some citation forms include additional language. Statements about the nature of the stop, check boxes that have been filled in, or sections that describe what the officer observed. Before you initial, you should know whether you are agreeing only to receipt or whether you are agreeing to the accuracy of anything described on the form. The second is the field contact or information card. In some stops, particularly those that escalate beyond a simple moving violation, officers may present a form that is not a citation at all. It looks administrative. It is described as routine. Initialing it may acknowledge that you were informed of certain things, that you were present at a certain location, or that you understood the officer's stated reason for the contact. These forms vary significantly by jurisdiction and department. Initialing one without reading it can create a documented record that is very different from what you understood you were agreeing to. The third is the refusal acknowledgement. This one is critical. In DUI-related stops or stops involving requests for field sobriety tests or chemical tests, some departments use forms that ask you to initial, acknowledging that you refused a test and that you were informed of the consequences of refusal. If you initial this form, you have created a signed record of your refusal. In some states, the implied consent laws mean that refusal carries automatic license penalties. In others, initialing that form is used as evidence of consciousness of guilt at trial. Before you initial any document that contains the word refusal, you want to know exactly what you are acknowledging and what legal consequences attach to that acknowledgement. Defense attorneys review these documents in every case that goes to court. The reason is that what a driver initialed and what they understood they were initialing is frequently different, and that gap is where legal challenges are built. Let me tell you about Diane. Diane is 58 years old, lives in Tennessee, and was stopped for a moving violation on her way home from work. The stop was straightforward. The officer wrote a citation, handed her the clipboard, and said, "Just initial at the bottom, and you are good to go." Diane initialed. She drove away. She assumed she had acknowledged receipt of a ticket she planned to contest in court. When she appeared in court, the prosecutor referenced the citation form. The initialed section included a pre-printed acknowledgement that Diane had been informed of the specific violation code and that she understood the citation was a formal notice of that violation. The prosecutor argued that her initials on that language demonstrated awareness and acknowledgement of the violation itself. Her attorney was able to address this, but it complicated a case that should have been simple. Diane later said she would have read every word of that form if someone had told her that her initials on it could be used against her in the hearing she was attending specifically to fight the ticket. She knows now. After this video, you know now. Here are the 3 questions you ask before you initial anything during a traffic stop. The first question is, what is this document and what does initialing it mean legally? You ask this calmly, directly, without attitude. You are not challenging the officer. You are asking for information about a legal document before you execute it. That is a completely reasonable request. The second question is, am I required by law to initial this document or is this a request? Some documents in a traffic stop are legally required, others are not. Knowing the difference tells you whether declining to initial is an option and what the consequence of declining would be. The third question is, can I have a moment to read this before I initial? You take that moment. You actually read it. If there is language you do not understand, you say so. If there is language that goes beyond simple acknowledgement of receipt, you know that before your initials are on it. Those 3 questions take less than 60 seconds. They can change the outcome of a court case. Here's the recap of everything you now know. Initials and signatures are legally identical. The word initial is used because it feels smaller and less significant. That feeling is a trap. Before any pen touches any document during a traffic stop, you ask what the document is, whether initialing it is legally required, and you take a moment to read it. The 3 documents to watch for are the citation acknowledgement, the field contact card, and the refusal acknowledgement. Each one carries different legal implications, and you should know what you are agreeing to before you agree to it. The exact words you say when that clipboard comes through your window are, "Officer, before I initial anything, can you tell me what I am acknowledging by signing this?" Then you read it. Then you decide. Think about one person in your life who gets pulled over regularly, someone who would initial that form in 2 seconds because it feels like the thing that ends the stop. Share this video with them today, not later, right now before you close this tab. What you just learned could be the thing that keeps their initials from being used against them in a hearing they went to specifically to fight back. Next week, I am covering what happens when an officer hands you a written statement form and tells you it is just for their records. That video breaks down the most misunderstood document in a traffic stop encounter and the 5 words that close that request down legally before you write a single word. Subscribe so you do not miss it the day it drops. Hit the like button if this changed how you will handle that clipboard the next time it comes through your window. Drop a comment telling me whether you knew, before today, that initials and signatures carried the same legal weight. I want to see how many people that surprises. Know your rights. Use them. Stay safe.